Somebody get a doctor. I need a shot of my medicine, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bad Medicine Podcast. This is take 42 for some that don't even know. A lot of technical difficulties, but we are here. We are good to go. We got a special guest. He is the man, the myth, the 80s legend, Dave Baye.
That's right. Two Daves, one podcast. Sometimes referred to as the Appleton Oak.
The Appleton. Holy shit. I didn't know anybody was referred to as the Appleton Oak, but I'll take it. That might stick. Actually. The Apple. I might run with that.
I'm thinking you should.
I just might. I think we'll do it. We'll do a God. When they test stuff. Now I'm having a brain fart. You messed me up, Dave. A focus group. We'll do a focus group.
You'll see what works.
Yeah, we'll see if people like our Appleton Oak. Austrian Oak is already taken. So
yeah, that's all right.
Dave, trademark it.
TM. All right, well, starting off here on the Bad Medicine Podcast, for those who don't know, maybe Dave, you could give us a quick little rundown about where you've been, where you're going, and how you got there.
Yeah, kind of a crazy story, especially the last 6 years or so for the last 6 or so years for me. So I grew up here in the Valley. Went to college in Oshkosh. Went there for communications. Got out of college, did marketing, and then in 2007. I registered on the Muscular Development Forums. For those of you younger listeners, there are these things called discussion forums on the internet. And this was before, right after Facebook started, long before Instagram. But basically, I just, I registered on these forums, and it was a cool way to connect with other bodybuilders and talk about competitions and stuff like that. And, hundreds of thousands of members. So the Muscular Development Forums were the biggest bodybuilding forums, still going today. But, my discussion styles and my commentary are very much like how I am in real life. And anybody who knows me knows that means I talk entirely too much. I'm probably too opinionated, and I have usually way too much to say and not enough time or people listening. So, but that was my discussion style. People talk a lot about keyboard warriors and how people are online versus how they are in real life. And how I was online was exactly how I was in real life. And the people running the website liked that. So, I started just posting in 2007 and 2009. They made me what's called a forum leader, which is not any sort of high up position. But 2011, I got promoted, I guess you could call it, to a moderator of the website. And then in 2013 was really when I had a breakthrough opportunity. And I say breakthrough opportunity and not just breakthrough, because it was like a 1 in a million lucky shot for me. So the online editor at the time was looking to add to their contest coverage team. Now, in bodybuilding, very much like in football or basketball or a lot of professional sports, the analysts are former Hall of Famers, people who are experts in the industry. So when the fans watch, they know that the person that is, covering these contests or something is not only a recognizable name, but somebody has a lot of experience in the industry. What the online editor wanted to try was taking kind of like a normal Joe Blow, I guess you could say, from the bodybuilding industry, and just so the fans could relate to one of their commentators on a little bit different level. Now, I had I'd been emceeing shows for a number of years at this time. I started in 2008, so I'd been emceeing shows for 5 years, so she knew I was comfortable on a microphone and in front of audiences. I had won the Mr. Wisconsin the previous year, as a communications and did marketing, so it was a good fit. And I started off in 2013 on a very probationary period, I guess you could say. They were going to bring me on, do a couple shows, see how it went, and things went really well. And so I got brought on full-time for contest coverage in 2014 and 15. I've had an opportunity to travel the world for 4 or 5 years. It was 30 weekends a year to different cities, different countries, Europe multiple times, Africa, Australia, Canada, Mexico. So it was a really unique opportunity for me. In 2016, I took over as the online editor. Only lasted a year. 2017, Muscular Development made some changes, and they still have a magazine going. And as anybody knows, print is kind of on its way out. And so they combined the online editor of the magazine position, or excuse me, the online editor position with the senior editor of the magazine. So my job got put on the chopping block. And I was lucky enough in 2017 to start working with Muscle and Fitness and Flex. And so I just kind of kept on rolling. The biggest change for me was Muscle and Fitness and Flex doesn't cover quite as many shows. They stick to the big shows, the Arnold Classic, the Olympia, some of the big NPC national level shows, where Muscular Development covered everything. So I was traveling nonstop. But since I stopped traveling to cover shows, I've picked up a lot of embassy work across the country and stuff like that, and some stuff over in Europe as well. So I have a few months off in November, December, and January, and then excuse me, January, February. But once March hits, I'm on the road 2-3 weekends a month for 9 months straight, and it's a great opportunity. So it's been really cool. And I know I talk a lot about travel, but the coolest opportunity is all the people I've been able to meet. I grew up as a big fan of all the bodybuilders in the 80s, action stars and wrestlers and stuff, and being backstage and having the media access, I've gotten to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger and Hulk Hogan and The Rock and Sylvester Stallone and all these wrestlers and action stars and all the bodybuilders I really looked up to. I've been able to meet all the Mr. Olympias that are still with us. So it's been an absolutely incredible ride. I've been doing it again since 2013, but it's still very surreal in a sense, when I'm out there and traveling and working with guys that I idolized, for my entire youth. So bit of a crazy ride, man. It's been fun.
So you mentioned that you travel 9 months out of the 12 pretty frequently. And eventually we want to swing back into the Arnold and talk more about that, but I'm kind of a diet guy as well. Not to probably the extent as you are, but can you kind of explain, like, it's easy being home during the week and getting your diet in, getting in a nice routine like that. But how does a guy like you keep a routine on the weekend with being on the road like that?
Yeah, luckily, most of the hotels that we go to for the bigger events, I'll stay at the host hotel. In a host hotel for these bodybuilding and fitness events, you usually have a custom menu just for the athletes. So that's very standard. That's very standard in the industry. As far as travel time and stuff like that, standard meal prep. I'll make sure to, prep my meals ahead of time, but that's only if I'm dieting. When I'm not, when I'm dieting for a competition and when I do compete, it's usually a 4 or 5 month diet. Then I'm very strict as far as making sure my meals are prepared ahead of time. Otherwise, if I'm not dieting for a show and I'm traveling, I'll just eat whatever, airplane food, burgers when I get there. I try to
pretty
keep
much
it
game on.
Yeah. I mean, I work out enough during the week. I can afford to, eat airport food and whatever. But I mean, there's been times where, I was traveling and even in dieting and stuff where, because of my schedule or whatever, I didn't have food prepped, and you just, you make it work. Every single restaurant in this country serves some sort of variation of a grilled chicken salad, whether it be Subway or McDonald's or whatever. If you can make an effort, you make it work. It's not always the most fun, but you can make it work.
Absolutely. So, what I find, I guess, the most interesting about your story, because you and I go back a little bit as far as, bumping into each other at the gym and, sharing some stories, about some different things. And the thing that I just found, the most fascinating, as with our guest from last week with Ben, was that, you didn't have to be in Chicago or New York or LA. You were just a guy who was very passionate about what he wanted to do, and the internet allowed you to pursue that. And, without having to necessarily take that big leap of jumping into a city and hoping you could meet people and know the right people and get tied in, you were just able to follow your passion. And again, using the internet, like I'm sure a number of our guests are going to be, it's just fascinating to me, that you can do that.
Yeah.
Appleton.
Yeah. And that's a great point, because the internet and social media, Instagram and Facebook, most specifically, even more so than the internet, have changed the fitness industry entirely. But anybody who follows, bodybuilding or wrestling or even fitness knows that in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and in the 90s, if you were anybody, you had to be in Venice, California. I mean, that was it. There was a New York crowd as well. They have their East Coast mecca, Bev Francis powerhouse gym out there, which there's still a lot of the pros that train out there. But if you wanted exposure, you pretty much had to be in New York or California, even Florida, Texas, those states. A little bit there, but you had to be in California. And yeah, absolutely, the internet and social media has made it able for people to have a voice from anywhere in the country, and it's changed the way a lot of bodybuilders live as well. I mean, most bodybuilders, they just live where they live, and they don't move anywhere for the sake of competing. You fly somewhere 4 or 5 times a year to compete, and you go back home, and you can connect with the fans and everything like that just from home. So there's still bodybuilders who are pursuing acting and modeling and things like that, and in that case, being in California is a little bit more ideal just for being accessible when they're doing commercials and casting calls and things like that. But as far as being in the media and the side that I'm on, yeah, it's I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, there's zero chance that some dude from Appleton, Wisconsin would have a chance to, link up with one of the biggest media outlets in bodybuilding and fitness and have an opportunity to travel the world. Yeah, but here I am. Thank you, Internet.
And so I guess to kind of piggyback off, talking about how the internet has, affected, things like bodybuilding and personal fitness and things like that. I guess when you first started, I guess, because not a lot of people might know this about myself, but my mom used to do bodybuilding as well. So I remember seeing,
Diane?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I remember seeing like all the old supplements back in the day, and
talk to that woman,
and like how different everything was. I guess, like, what are some of the changes that you've seen in your career, just in terms of whether it be, certain diets, whatever fad supplements you might see, or I guess some of the things that stood out in your mind as seeing the industry really kind of change?
Yeah, I'll say the biggest change that I've seen to the fitness industry is social media, and most specifically Instagram. It's hurt the bodybuilders actually as far as their financial end. So basically, how it used to be when you were a bodybuilder is you turned pro. If you were a good competitor, you got a magazine contract, you got a supplement contract, and you got a clothing deal, and there were all these things. But the advertising mediums were pretty much, you put your pictures in magazines. Oh, this person takes this supplement and whatever. And that's, as far as tracking sales and stuff, I'm sure that was very difficult. In today's day and age, the companies that pay these guys, there's no more magazine contracts. So bodybuilders don't get those at all anymore. As far as supplement companies, they're more concerned about, engagement on social media, and are you moving products? You could be the biggest bodybuilder in the world, but if you're kind of a ho-hum personality and you don't connect well with the fans on social media, you could have 1 million followers just from being a successful bodybuilder, but you could have somebody with 100,000 followers or half of that really has good engagement with their fan base and things like that have higher sales. And so the supplement companies are looking a lot more as, what can this athlete do for my company, as opposed to, we got to have so-and-so signed on for us. So it's been a huge change in that way. One of the biggest things with the internet and social media is that it's really a double-edged sword, in that there's such a wealth of information now. When I was growing up, you read bodybuilding magazines and, talked to old meatheads at the gym if you wanted diet or training advice, and that was pretty much it. And now there's an infinite amount of knowledge and research and stuff out there. But on the flip side of that, there's an infinite amount of idiots and bro science and just nonsense. And so it's created a very interesting dynamic, in that all the world, or all the information that you should need is right there at your fingertips. But there's also just as much bad advice, waiting to be shoved down your throat from self-proclaimed gurus and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. I could honestly, I could talk for an hour or two about how, or way longer than that, about how the internet and social media has impacted the fitness industry, and it's impacted every industry. If you look at, I just saw in Forbes the other day, Kylie Jenner's the youngest person to ever become a billionaire, and people are.
Dude, we were just talking. Quinn and I were texting each other about that. And Quinn texted me one day out of the blue about the Kylie Jenner thing. It was just weird. And then I looked it up, and you guys were right. It's just that social media, and then boom, she's like,
everything.
Well, if you think
million.
about what she's 21, 22 years old. I don't follow the Kardashians or whatever.
Oh,
but
come on,
annoying.
everybody
here's
does.
the thing.
Liar.
If you're a business trying to advertise and your target market is say 16 to 25 year olds, where are you going to advertise? You're not putting it in magazines. You're not putting it on primetime TV. Kids that age don't look at internet banner ads. Where are you going to reach your target audience? You're going to do it on social media. Okay, well, how do you do it on social media? You're going to put it in pop-up, when you're scrolling through your Instagram feed, ads in your story? No, we want people to promote my products. So it's different than it was in that they used to have the models wear the product. Now it's the same thing. They're just posting for it on social media. She's making $200,000-300,000, sometimes even more per post. And so
Look out for that Kylie Jenner Bad Medicine podcast post that's coming soon.
You guys give her a call. But we've seen that in social media too. There's guys right now making tons of money that have never accomplished anything as far as competitive bodybuilding goes, because they connect well with the fans. They've got huge social media. You have guys like Joey Swole and Bradley Martin and Simeon Panda. And Simeon's done well in bodybuilding, but he's not, a Mr. Olympia or anything. And these guys are killing it because, they've learned how to connect with fans, and they've taken the opportunities that came in front of them for social media. And it's crazy, but these companies have to have a way to reach people, and social media is the way they do it. And that's the direction things have gone. It's insane, and it's turned the fitness industry and just about every industry inside out as far as advertising and reaching your target markets.
So when we talk about like fitness and diets, like I wanted to get I asked Dave about a diet that I heard that like Terry Crews does, the fasting diet, and Dave was just obviously like,
I buried it, Dave. I don't care for fasting, but that could be a whole nother thing.
Yeah, he was just like, I don't know. I never tried it. So I wanted to hear what your thoughts were on that, because, I obviously see Terry Crews and how big he is. So it might work. And, a couple of guys I work with do it, and they're in pretty good shape. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
No, it's at the end of the day, the progress that you're making is going to be calories in versus calories out. If you have intermittent fasting and you fast for 16 hours, and in your 8-hour window, you have 10,000 calories. That shit ain't, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Swear.
That shit ain't gonna work for you,
There you go.
It's all about, look, I know a lot of people who do intermittent fasting and they like it, and there's a lot of studies as to why you benefit from it. From a bodybuilder standpoint, it's, if you're looking to get really big, generally it's not ideal, because you want to consume food throughout the course of the day to make sure you're maximizing protein synthesis and muscle gains. And I actually had a great opportunity 2 years ago at the Mr. Olympia weekend in Las Vegas. I was the host for the GNC workshop stage that they had there, and so they had all these big names. One of them was Jim Stepani, and anybody who follows Jim Stepani, Jim is huge. He's was the science editor for Muscle and Fitness for 10 years. He's a super 10-time black belt PhD or some shit. I don't know. But he spent an extensive period of time going over intermittent fasting. And, for somebody looking to have decent muscle tone and just stay in good shape, it's definitely an option. I think the biggest thing with intermittent fasting that helps people the most is it creates a little bit more structure than they might have in their normal diet. Okay, I'm going to eat from noon until 8, or I'm going to eat from noon until midnight. And some people, Joe Rogan did an amazing podcast with a doctor who does like a 2-hour window, I think he said, or a 1 or 2 hour window. And he went back to, all the way back to caveman days where you hunted, you killed something, you stuffed your face, and you might not eat again for another day or two. And so there's a lot of studies that show that intermittent fasting is good. It takes a little while to adjust, from what I understand, as far as, not being hungry earlier in the mornings and kicking that sort of stuff. But other people will do what they call carb fasting. So I know that's very popular, where you'll have people have breakfast or their first 2 meals of the day, but if their first 2 meals are at 8 and 10 a.m., they'll have just egg whites in the morning, and then maybe some chicken and vegetables a little bit later, and their window to take carbohydrates is from 12 until 8. And I've done that just because I eat enough to where I don't feel like, and people are right, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but I feel like I get enough food from the previous day where I'm going to be okay. But at the end of the day, with all the diets, keto diets, paleo diets, Atkins diet, carb diet, mustard diet, I don't give a shit what you're on. At the end of the day, the calories you take in has to be less than the calories that you're expending. And if you can accomplish that one way or another, you're going to lose weight. Certainly there's more healthy ways to do it and ways that are going to benefit individuals better. But there was a guy on the old forums. This was before even muscular development forums, Adonis something. The guy everybody loved to hate. And he always was arguing with bodybuilders and calling us meatheads and stuff about, their chicken and rice diets. And so just to prove a point about the calories in versus calories out, he decided to do a cutting diet on nothing but Krispy Kremes and Oreos is what it was. Each day, he would like take a picture of the food he ate, right? Like put it on a table. Like, here's my donuts and here's my Oreos. And it was very easy to track. And like, this is and he got shredded, And essentially all you would have to do is, hey, I'm going to reduce my Oreos by 2 until you're at whatever that calorie range you need is. Now, that being said, if you put 2,000 calories or 2,500 calories of Oreos and Krispy Kremes on a table next to 2,500 calories of chicken and potatoes and vegetables, the volume of food that you get to eat with junk food to consume that is going to be significantly less. And the nutritional value is going to be nothing. But it's calories in versus calories out. If you have 5,000 calories of nothing but shit, beer and tacos and Oreos, and you have somehow managed to stuff your face with 10,000 calories of chicken and lean beef and rice and stuff, you're going to get fat on the healthy foods. Like I said, there's so much research out there for the benefits of intermittent fasting, and I know a lot of people that have done it with a fair amount of success, but it's a lot of it is analyzing, what sort of lifestyle do I live? How much food do I need? My daytime job right now, I literally sit on my ass all day, and I have very little need for carbohydrates while I'm working as far as energy expenditure goes. So, I mean, for me to do carb fasting and not have carbs until noon, it's not like I'm going to show up at work and be like, oh my God, I'm dead, whereas, if somebody was working a hard construction job, and they started at, let's say they were doing an 8-hour window and they were doing 16 hours, so they went from noon until 8 p.m. was their 8-hour window, and they did a 16-hour intermittent fast. Look, if you had to start working at 6 a.m. and you were busting balls from 6 a.m. until noon, you're probably going to be dead ass tired. And in that case, I wouldn't recommend it. You probably burn a lot of calories. But so a lot of it has to just do with looking at your lifestyle and seeing if that fits your lifestyle. But definitely has its benefits. But at the end of the day, like I said, you can intermittent fast, but if you're stuffing your food with shitty food or stuffing your face with shitty food for that 8-hour window, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like you really need to start to kind of know your body and know what works for you. And, like you were saying, know your lifestyle. Because, to go along with that, the old adage of you can't, how does it go? You can't outwork a shitty diet.
You can't out cardio a bad diet. Holy shit, do I know that one? Yeah. Trust me, guys. If I could just increase my cardio to I don't mind cardio. Some people hate it. And I don't mind it at all. I'll get on a treadmill or an elliptical or whatever, a stair climber, and just watch Netflix. Netflix and cell phones and tablets is the best thing to happen to having to do cardio ever. Yep. But no, you could, and the calories that a treadmill is telling you that you're burning never equals out to what you're taking in. If I was
lying.
If I had 2 slices of pizza and it says 500 calories, and all I had to do to negate that was burn 500 calories on an elliptical, trust me, I would. I do cardios for 6 hours a day if I could do it and still have pizza and getting ready for a competition. But no, you can't out cardio a bad diet, and it gets shoved in our faces all the time. But abs and all that's made in the kitchen, and your diet, regardless of whether your goals are weight loss or muscle gain, is 60 to 80%. I would never say lower than 50%, but it doesn't matter what you're doing in the gym. If you're not matching your efforts in the kitchen, you're never going to get to where you want to be, or it's going to take you 10 times longer than it should.
And I have seen a bit of a trend, and I know, a couple of guys I know who spend a lot of time on the road. They're big fans of the meal services, right? So, you get signed up, they send you the stuff frozen, 2-3 minutes in the microwave, you're ready to go. What's your opinion on those? Because I know they are a bit priced.
Yeah,
a
the
bit
meal.
pricey, but
Yeah, the meal prep services are fantastic if you can, if you can afford it. I mean, I can go to Sam's Club and buy broccoli and chicken breasts and beef, and I don't give a shit if somebody thinks it's ghetto to buy that stuff at Sam's Club. I do it, and it's worked for me, right?
I've never
So
heard that before ever.
no, I've gotten beef at Walmart, and people are like, "How can you eat beef from Walmart?" I'm like, well, what? Yeah, and I never want to like insult people for whatever, but I'm like, it seems to be working a little bit better for me than your.
Come
No,
on, just
but
give them a double pump right there in the park.
no, but it's yeah, right. It's no, but the meal prep companies are expensive, but if you can afford it, it's fantastic. I mean, yeah, you have all your, and I mean, some of these companies, I mean, they let you pick your stuff down to a T. Like it's not like Nutrisystem where they mail you, 3 meals, and you got to have a little bit of wiggle room in your diet. I mean, you can narrow it down to this is how many ounces of this protein I want, this many carbs, this many vegetables, and they're fantastic. And yeah, you could throw them in a microwave. I have a little thing that plugs in. It's called a Hot Logic Mini. You can get them on Amazon for like $40. But you just plug it into an outlet, and it's got a little hot plate, and it looks like a little mini lunchbox, and it heats up your food in that, and it won't burn it because the hot plate only gets so much. So if you're on an airplane or in a truck that has an AC adapter or whatever, you don't even need a microwave anymore. You can heat your food up and go that way. But even if for people who are on the road, the biggest thing, and I just had this discussion with somebody the other way, the most underrated food in the entire world is the sandwich. It's the sandwich. Somewhere in the bodybuilding and fitness world, the sandwich got just thrown to the curb and got completely disrespected. If you get like 6 or 8 ounces of a lean meat, and you get like 2 slices of Ezekiel bread or a good multigrain bread, that is a good meal. I don't care what anybody says, unless you're actually allergic to gluten or whatever. Not like the 99% of people who buy gluten-free shit. But no, I mean, so it's easy. You could go buy turkey and multigrain bread, and you could have turkey sandwiches and get shredded. But there's so many. I tell you what, there's so many healthy options for food right now. Restaurants on the go. People really don't have any sort of excuses as to why they're not eating healthy. It's not a matter of I can't. It's just a matter of this is the choices I make. Anywhere you go, whether it be you can go to a gas station and get a muscle milk and a protein bar. Any gas station in the country, and yeah, granted, it's not the most ideal meal, but it's a meal with a fair amount of protein, moderate amount of carbs. And so as far as being on the road or anything else, like I said, it's this is coming from a guy who loves my pizza and beer and burgers and stuff like that. And so I do a lot of cardio to try to maintain a certain, yeah, exactly. I had a few last night out watching my buddy's band, but no, for traveling on the road and stuff like that, yeah, there's a ton of options. And like I said, every gas station, and now when you travel, I just road trip to the Arnold Classic. I know we're going to get into that a little bit later, but it was about a 10-hour drive to Columbus, Ohio, and every other gas station has a Subway or some sort of restaurant in it where you have healthy food options. So traveling, being on the road, working a lot, those aren't. I understand that it's easier just to pull up to a drive-through and order something, but you still have plenty of options.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a far cry from what it was. And yeah, to your point, the options are just insane. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, whether it's...
I went to Quick Trip this morning, and I went out and did
Who should be a sponsor of our podcast, by the way.
Should be. You guys talk about Quick Trip? No, but all I got was I got two egg whites. I got 2 egg white ham English muffins and a muscle milk. And the muscle milk like 200 calories or whatever I got, and the sandwiches are 250 each. So it's and I'm 265, 270 pounds, so 700 calories in a meal isn't very much for me. And that was a healthy breakfast. And had somebody else wanted to go in there that was smaller, you could have gotten a egg white with ham on a whole wheat English muffin and gotten a muscle milk, and for $5 you could have gotten a meal that's under 450 calories with probably 30-40 grams of protein. There's so many options everywhere. And one of the things that I hear the most is people's like, oh, I don't know what to eat. And if you're trying to get down to 3 or 4% body fat, it can be tricky. But I don't know what to eat is a terrible excuse in these day and age. Like, Oreos and chips, bad. Lean meat, Greek yogurt, good. It's not rocket science.
One of my pet peeves, and I don't know if you agree with this, but one of my pet peeves is when people, because everyone knows I'm a trainer for the most part. So when we get talking in the consultations, I give them these ideas, suggestions and recommendations that they could do. And they're like, oh, nope, can't. So that's one of my pet peeves is hearing, oh, I can't. Like they shut it down immediately without even giving it a second thought. What's your thoughts when you hear people say, I can't?
I don't like motivating people. I don't. It's one of the things I don't like doing. If somebody's like, I can't do that, I'm like, fuck it, don't. So, no, but like everybody's gonna have excuses. I had an interesting conversation with somebody the other day because somebody had discussed how they've tried every diet, they can't lose weight, and I'm like, you're not doing it right, and they were like, nope, tried everything, can't lose weight, and I said, this is obviously an extreme hypothetical situation, but let's put yourself in a situation where the only food that you eat, and the only thing you get to drink throughout the course of the day is what I give you. I am in 100% control. You have no access to food or beverages other than what's handed to you. I guarantee 100% that you will lose the weight. People who say that they've tried everything, and I understand that there's legitimate cases of people with thyroid issues and certain drugs they're on for different conditions and that make weight loss very difficult. That is the 0.001%. Okay. The other 99%, and it's some people have slow metabolisms and you're going to have to work harder and stuff like that. So I'm not going to say that it's not harder for some people, but if you're, conscious about what you're eating and you make the right decisions, literally anybody can lose weight. So I guess, my follow-up question would be like, well, why won't it work? That would always be okay, that won't work. Okay, well, tell me more. That's one of the training things that are at my work, when you're talking with people and in conflict resolution, one of the big things they use for conflict resolution is the phrase, tell me more. And I think that could be used very well as far as dieting stuff as well. Well, I can't do that diet. Okay, I'm not going to just call you out on your bullshit, but tell me more. Tell me why you can't do that. And you'll find that people's excuses and their reasonings really fall apart. They have a ton of holes in them. And at the end of the day, they just don't want to do it, And so I think that a lot of people hire personal trainers because they want somebody to motivate them. They want somebody to tell them what to do. And then when they get there, they realize, okay, well, now I still have to be the one responsible to make these decisions. And so, it's tough being in the position as a trainer. I have lots of friends that are trainers, and you can have somebody who works their ass off in the gym and doesn't make any progress at all because their nutrition isn't on point. Or I trained a girl a while back, and I don't do much training anymore, but it was a friend of a friend, and I said I would. And this girl busted her ass in the gym. She went hard 4 days a week. It was Monday through Thursday. And there was no bullshit, man. This girl got at it in the gym with her weight training and her cardio and fucking drank every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. That was part of her lifestyle. I think she was in her mid-20s at the time. That was part of her lifestyle. She probably had about 20 or 30 pounds to lose. Not obese, not in the shape she wanted to be in. She wasn't somebody you'd see in the streets and be like, oh my God, she needs to lose weight. She just wanted to lose a little bit of weight to feel better. And she was killing it in the gym with diet and cardio. And I saw it firsthand, and she made no progress. None. Zero progress. And she was busting her ass. And it spoke very loudly for the fact that you have to take some responsibility for your diet. And, you can tank 5 days of great progress in the gym with a weekend of shitty decisions. That's not to say somebody shouldn't be able to go out and have, some pizza or a burger or a couple glasses of wine or whatever. You still got to live your life. But, people like making excuses. At the end of the day, you have to be accountable for your own stuff. And if you're not, you're just not going to see the results that you want to get.
Well, yeah, because at the end of it, you can only control an hour out of her 24-hour day. So you've got her good for that hour, but she has the other 23 hours to decide what she does.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So on the topic of pet peeve, give us one pet peeve that bugs Dave Baye in the gym.
Is it groaning?
No, I'd say no. I'll be the first one to it. I'll be the first one to admit, like, a lot of the shit that bothers me now, I was like the worst of doing it. When I was in my 20s. Like right now, like people who grunt too loud in the gym bother me. Check, I did that. That's a lot about environment, though. Like you go to a certain environment, and then I'm like, yeah, let's get to it. Guys who carry their water jugs around. And I'm also guilty as fuck of that. But man, that's as douchey as it gets. Are you bad? And I did it though. I did it for years. I carried a jug around at the gym. Fuck, man. I did stupid shit. Even at the Arnold Classic this last weekend, there's guys walking around, just guys at the expo walking around with their gallon jugs. Like, dude, you are not gonna get fucking dehydrated in the next 3 hours at the expo. You just look like an idiot. But my number one pet peeve, and this has happened to me at Crunch, I bounce back and forth experience in Crunch, and Crunch has a really long line of dumbbells, right?
Yep.
But their benches are fixed. I don't know why the fuck they did that. I love that place, but they anchored their benches to the floor. You can't move them or whatever. Probably had to do it because of idiots or insurance reasons, I'm guessing, or both.
Probably.
But all the time. So kids, they have. It's like they'll be like 2 adjustable benches and a flat one, 2 adjustable benches and a flat one. So there's plenty of variety, right? And these kids will take the dumbbells from the 25s, way the hell down on one side, and carry it down and use it on the bench in front of the heavy shit, right? So it's like, look, if I want to grab the dumbbells go up to 120s, and there's, a bench that's pretty close to the 120s. Like if I want to grab the 120s, I want to pick them up, walk back 4 or 5 steps, and sit down on the bench, right? And I don't want to have to walk or roll the dumbbells over 30 or 40 feet. And
well, Dave, you can just do the farmer's walk and just make that a part of your routine.
Fuck that. No, but that's been my pet peeve lately, and it's been happening like nonstop. I'm one of the bigger guys at the gym, so I'll go in and my shoulders, my chest day, and even back day, I'll use the heavier dumbbells, and I guess I really don't use the bench much for back. Sometimes for one arm rows, but yeah, that shit drives me nuts. We could go on for 2 or 3 hours, and you could have a section like pet peeve in public, pet peeve at work. Pet
peeve in public would be dominating this whole podcast if we went that route.
Well, because the one that I have in the gym is when you see somebody with shitty form, like you see them, they don't do everything like from how you've been shown or how you've done it, and you see them like doing the whole rocking with anything, with trying to make sure they can get those heavier weights up instead of doing a nice controlled lift.
Yeah, again, I go back to the douchey. I've been there, done that thing. I did some pretty sloppy lifting in my younger years. Grabbed way too much weight, and I won't lie. You're trying to impress people. The older guys, other bodybuilders, girls. And pretty common, piece of advice that all bodybuilders get now is, leave your ego at the door. Put your ego in your locker, check your ego at the door, whatever. And that's what you have to do. And most of the people that are lifting with shitty form aren't even doing it because they don't know what they're doing. Most of them are doing it because they're using too much weight and ego lifting. So that doesn't bother me because it's like, that's not a pet peeve of mine at all. I don't care because that doesn't affect me at all. You can do backflips in your underwear in the middle of the gym, and I don't give a shit what you're doing. That doesn't bother me. But when I want to use a bench next to the 120s and you just carried 20-pound dumbbells over from the other side of the gym when there's an open bench right in front of the 20s, that bothers me. When people leave their fucking carts laying out in the middle of the Walmart parking lot, and they're going around, that bothers me.
All right, next time at Crunch, I'll be sure to keep those benches open for you.
So we're going to transition into the Arnold here, Dave. Now, last time I was there was in 2009. So obviously, 2009 to 2019, there's been a huge boom for the Arnold. Can you kind of give us a walkthrough of kind of what you've seen over the years have changed? Or
I guess for people of our audience who maybe don't even know what the Arnold is, I guess if you don't mind taking it.
Yeah, so the Arnold Classic is it started off as a professional bodybuilding competition in 1990, 89, 90, 91, 89, 90. I should know this. But so it started off as a professional bodybuilding competition, and it's essentially grown to a mini Olympics, for lack of a better term. I think there's something like 120 sports. and not just strength sports. So people think, oh, there's bodybuilding and powerlifting and strongman. No, there's wrestling, there's MMA, there's CrossFit, there's Spartan racing, there's fencing, there's gymnastics, I mean, you name it. It is like a mini Olympics. And along with that, they have the biggest health and fitness expo in the USA is there every year. So it's an absolutely huge expo, ton of energy. You have everything from equipment companies to supplement companies to clothing companies to health and wellness and lifestyle companies. And so it is a massive event. The bodybuilding competition, the Arnold Classic itself is still the kind of the highlight of the weekend or the main point of the weekend. But it's really grown, and in the 80s and 90s and even in the early 2000s before internet and social media, it was all just successful bodybuilders, like who are the pros. And now like I said, YouTube stars, social media stars, they'll have lines 3 times as long as popular bodybuilders because they connect better with the fans. And so the Arnold Classic is just a really fun weekend. It's some people wonder why it's in Ohio. I think he was the mayor of Ohio, a guy named Jim Lorimer, partnered up with Arnold, when they first started it, and they just kind of made this pact that they were going to keep it in Columbus. It's very centralized here in the Midwest. It's easy to get to from just about anywhere. They have a great exhibition center connected to 3 or 4 different hotels. I mean, obviously, all those hotels are sold out, and every hotel within 20, 30 miles. But it's a really fun event every year, and there's really something for everybody. So if you're involved in fitness or bodybuilding or in any way, shape, or form, it's a really fun weekend. And it's definitely not just for bodybuilders. I think the expo this year, there was over 200,000 people, finals for the bodybuilding. I think that theater probably seats, I don't know, maybe 5,000 or something. So yeah, a ton of the people that come there don't even go to the bodybuilding stuff. They just want to go to the booths, hang out, watch the stuff at the expo stage. I mean, they'll have arm wrestling, all kinds of weird stuff this year. One new thing I've never seen before, I don't even know what it's called. So you have 2 guys like sitting down.
And is this what you posted on your Instagram story?
No, this is something different. So there's imagine like an 8x10 standing on the tall edge, right? Like a piece of wood, right? And you sit down and you put your feet up against it. So you're like facing the other guy. You both have your feet up against it, obviously on opposite sides. And they have like a stick, just like a 2-foot long stick. And each person gets a grip with each hand on the stick, like an over and under. And you just have to pull the stick away from the other guy.
Really?
So imagine sitting down, like you're sitting down on your ass with your legs extended, with your feet up against the board. And somebody is on the other side, and they put a stick in the middle, and you just have to pull the stick away from the other guy. So it's kind of like you're doing a row or whatever, but I was like, this is stupid. And then you watch it for like a couple minutes, and then you're like instantly hooked. Like, oh, this guy's my guy. He's he's got that stick all the way. And so, but no, the Arnold Classic it's a ton of fun. Like I said, you don't even have to be a bodybuilding fan. And I tell you what, the strongman stuff is by far the most fun for me to watch. Traditionally, ever since I started going, I've had responsibilities for covering the bodybuilding and the fitness side of it. I was there this year for Muscle and Fitness and Flex, and a little bit of some scheduling conflicts with our video crews. And so I got asked to go cover the strongman stuff, which was for me, I've seen the bodybuilding shows. I've been to a million bodybuilding shows, but I've never gotten to watch a lot of the strongman stuff. And that was fantastic. Hafthor Bjornsson, the Mountain from Game of Thrones, broke his own deadlift record, and he ended up getting his 2nd title. But the Arnold Classic, it's grown. The expo was absolutely huge. It's grown in the number of sports, and it's really a weekend where there's something for everybody.
So on your Instagram story, can you describe that contraption? I think you said it was actually pulled from one of Arnold's.
Yes. Movies. So if you remember the original Conan, so how the first Conan started is Arnold and his people got, I don't want to say kidnapped. I don't know what they called it back then. They went in, this one tribe goes in, murders all the men, takes the women and the children, turns them into slaves. And they had what was called a wheel of pain. So imagine just like a big, like 3-foot center pivot, and it has all these arms that go off it. Like take an old wooden wheel and take the outer ring off the outside of it. So if you imagine an old wooden car wheel just without the outer rim on it, and people would stand up against it and push it in a circle, and it was connected to a well system. So as you pushed the wheel in a circle, there was a pulley system that got well up from the water. And the opening scene of Conan shows Arnold pushing it, and they do like this time lapse. They show him pushing it as a little kid, and then as a teenager, and then he's a little older, and all of a sudden they pan in, and it's like this huge jacked Arnold. So they created an almost exact replica of the Wheel of Pain from the original Conan movie for the strongmen to push. It was 20,000 pounds. It had underneath the on the inside had huge barrels filled with sand, so you couldn't gain any momentum because the barrels would roll, and the sand rolls up on the backside and then falls right to the center. So the barrels weren't completely full with sand; they were about half full, and because of that, you couldn't get any momentum. And it was, they put it up days before, so of course everybody's walking around like, oh, whoa, what is that thing? It was very ornate, like these, at the end of each arm, the arms were like giant, like logs, probably 12, 14 inches thick, the kind you've seen like on telephone poles or something like that. So picture like a 20-foot telephone pole, and that's what was coming off, and the guys had to push that. But at the end, there was really ornate heads, like carved snake heads and lion heads and stuff like that. It, strongman's just about, who's the strongest big ass dude out there. But, there's definitely an entertainment side to it that they really took advantage of this year with the new contraption.
Yeah, so, I saw some of the pictures of that, Dave, and I thought it was incredible, the attention to detail that they had on it, because I'm obviously a big fan of the Conan the Barbarian movies, watched them since I was a kid, and still do. And when I saw that pop up a couple times on YouTube, I was like, I couldn't believe the amount of detail that they got into it. Some company definitely made some money that weekend cranking that baby out.
Yeah, no, and because they could have essentially made the same thing that did the same thing without any of that detail. But it was done phenomenally. I had some pictures on my Instagram. It's David Baye, David Baye, and then the number 79. I put some pictures of there's a video of Hafthor Bjornsson, the champion, doing it. He ended up getting second in that event. There's some pictures up close of like the heads, and then some wide pictures so you can see the whole thing. But it was really cool. And I'll tell you what, strongman has grown by leaps and bounds over the last 10 years. And now with the guy that's, on the Game of Thrones being the number one guy in the world, he's taken the popularity of strongman to a whole new level. But strongman's, so much different than bodybuilding. And I'm a bodybuilding fan, through and through. But the reality is that watching a bodybuilding show, if you're not that into bodybuilding, can be a little bit boring. I mean, it's interesting. You're like, wow, these dudes are freaks, but it's not that fun to watch. They're on stage, they're flexing. And as a bodybuilding fan and as a media person and as an analyst, when I'm watching, you're very much comparing it, like, okay, this guy's got this on this guy, and you're not just sitting back watching it and cheering. Whereas strongman, that's some shit you could put on. You could put this Arnold Classic strongman competition on ESPN on a Saturday night, and people would sit down with their beers in a bar and love the hell out of it. Like, oh, holy shit, I bet he can't lift that fucking thing, and it's just strongman's just it's really fun to watch, and it's one of the definite crowd favorites there every year, and especially now it just keeps growing and growing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you more because I saw a couple of pictures with you and Mountain Thor from Game of Thrones, and I just thought it was cool seeing how big you were next to him, and you pretty much looked like his child.
Yeah.
And the one with you and him and Mark Henry, that was also a real nice picture too.
Yeah, I tell you what, one thing I always say to people, like the opportunities that I've had. And I don't know if risk is the right word, but there's almost like this risk that you're going to meet these people that you look up to, or that these people you've idolized. And it's like, oh man, what if they're dicks,
Yeah, the old adage, don't ever.
Yeah, like, man, if this guy's an asshole, he's going to essentially ruin my childhood, And it's so cool because almost all these guys are just the coolest guy in the world. And Hafthor, and he prefers like media people. He doesn't, and he's like, I don't like being called the Mountain. They do, like the announcers, they're the Mountain, but he prefers just being called Hafthor. But he's the nicest guy, and Mark Henry is so genuine. And I get to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I have backstage passes, for everything for media, and so a lot of people will ask that too. Well, do these guys just put on a smile for the cameras and then they're dicks when the cameras aren't rolling? Absolutely not. Like Thor was sitting there taking pictures with these guys that were in wheelchairs. They kind of gave them special access, so they were able to see it. And they asked for pictures, and this is 20 minutes before this guy's competing for the Arnold Classic strongman. He's taking pictures with fans. He's just a real genuine person. Mark, I'll tell you what, Mark Henry is as nice of an individual as you're ever going to meet. I know he's actually coming to Wisconsin here coming up, but Mark is just the nicest guy. And a lot of these guys, even Arnold is awesome, and you see so much cool shit. But Thor is the biggest, strongest dude in the world, and he is one of the most polite athletes and the most humble guys I've ever met. And it's when you're that big, like, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to try to be a badass. When you're 6'9", 4, and he was 450 this year. He was a little thicker than he's been in previous years. You don't have to try to be a badass. You don't have to try to be tough. You just are, and he just is a really genuine person, and to see that up close, and like I said, to be able to see the behind the scenes stuff where you really realize that that's how they are, it's awesome.
I was going to ask you, Dave, now that you bring up like behind the scenes, and I don't know, maybe this is a lame question, but kind of like in pro wrestling, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that everyone's very intrigued with. Is there any kind of intrigueness, behind the scenes with like the Arnold that you've been involved in or seen or anything like that?
No, backstage is a pretty cool place. There's a lot of, it's weird because some shows the guys will all be BS and there's a lot of camaraderie, and some the guys have their headphones on and their heads down and stuff. But backstage at like a bodybuilding show, essentially you get the people there, they're getting their tans touched up in like these spray tents or whatever. There'll be a small pump up area, I would say like the weirdest thing backstage at some bodybuilding shows, and not at local amateur shows. And I know a lot of people when they go to local amateur shows are nervous about, and they should be, like, all the local amateur shows and the national level shows have separate room for women, and they are very professional when it comes to people's privacy and comfort, and to make sure that nobody's ever put in an awkward situation. But sometimes at the bigger shows, guys and girls, people just be changing backstage and shit, like out in the open. You're like, hey, like
Wang Chung.
But nobody cares, it's not, it's just people just change it. That's kind of funny to see. Like the first time you're walking backstage and there's somebody naked and you're like, oh, hey, again, not a regular occurrence, but it happens once in a while, and nobody thinks twice about it. But no, I get asked that a lot, like, oh, you see like the juicy drama behind the scenes in bodybuilding, and it's like, not really, it's backstage. Backstage at a bodybuilding show, like everybody's like so hungry and so dehydrated and so tired. It's a pretty mellow place. Like you'd think it would be like all this like, hype and excitement. I don't know, like, the locker room at Notre Dame before a game. It's like, nah, like backstage at the Mr. Olympia, behind the stage, they have a really big pump up area. And then they have separate blocked off areas for women to get their tan touched up. Again, it's not like these women have to like be out in the open or whatever. They very much respect their privacy, but it's still a pump up area. And then they have the playing on the screens, and then there's an area where the guys get touched up for their tan, but everybody's kind of just chilling, watching TV. There's some media people. The most exciting thing that happened backstage at the Olympia this year was Shaq just showed up out of nowhere. Yeah. It was hilarious because there's people, it was like, and it was seriously, it was the most random thing, because there's like guys pumping up and stuff, getting ready, media's back there talking, and one of the Dexter Jackson, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, one of my favorites, and I was over by him doing some pictures and stuff, and I just hear him say, what the hell is Shaq doing here? Like not like in a bad way. Dexter's like the coolest guy, but it was like the most random thing, and I'm like, what? Yep, there's Shaq. But no, and I tell you what, there's not a lot of like drama backstage in bodybuilding either, like you see in football locker rooms, or sometimes people get in arguments in the locker rooms. There's almost none of that. Like guys will come off stage and argue with each other, and the officials don't put up with it. The officials on the NPC and the IFBB, the organizations of the shows I cover, they don't tolerate that sort of stuff. They're not going to police who talks crap online and stuff like that. But that is one thing I will say. Well, there's a lot of things good I can say about the NPC and the IFBB, but at the shows, they make their athletes run a very narrow line. You're representing the athlete, or you're representing, the organization. You're representing your own companies and stuff like that. And so, I wish I had something a little bit more exciting about some juicy drama that goes on backstage at these bodybuilding shows. One of the other funny things is, like, normally at the Arnold and the Olympia, they'll have huge like pizza and burger spreads, and you wouldn't think that. But like, they'll be chowing down on pizza and shit like that because you're not gonna get fat in a half hour. So and some guys are very particular about the sodium and the carbs they take in and stuff. And some guys, hey, it's half hour before I'm about to go on stage at night, I'm gonna have some pizza. So that's a weird thing. You think, like, here's the fittest people in the world, and they're like mowing down on pizza backstage. So.
Yeah, and you briefly touched on it, and I think maybe a lot of our listeners might not know. You hit it real briefly, but when you're at your competition day, so to speak, you're not exactly feeling the greatest. I mean, right? I mean, it's probably you're at your weakest. You're dehydrated. I mean, you don't have a lot of extra energy to waste because you got to go out there and just hold a fully flexed pose, and I've heard of guys like blacking out on stage or passing out, because they're so low on energy.
Yeah, you're tired. That's the other thing. It's not like backstage nobody's got a lot of energy. Everybody's tired. Some people go pretty extreme with water depletion. So you have people that are hydrated. So there's not a ton of energy backstage. People are pretty much beat and tired, and they're obviously pumped up. When it's time to actually go out on stage, you can see people like, well, here's my 80s reference, like over the top. It's like a switch, and you see people like just turn it on when it's time to go. But yeah, it's a really mellow atmosphere backstage at the bodybuilding shows, just because everybody's tired and hungry, and the organization doesn't put up with any drama. I don't know if I've ever seen like two women or two guys like arguing with each other, and you would think, like, with the number of athletes they would have, like something like that would happen. But again, everybody knows that the organization absolutely doesn't stand for that, and so you don't have that kind of drama. It's just non-existent.
So a lot of people may not know this, Dave, but you have some, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit by mentioning Mark Henry, but you have some WWE ties, correct?
Yeah, for a girl that I used to do some work with, Ashley Sabera. We're friends. We're not BFFs. She doesn't come over on Sunday for Kool-Aid and hot dogs, so I don't want to make it seem like, oh yeah, we're best friends. But she used to do a little bit of work with muscular development back in the day. She wrestles as Dana Brooke. Phenomenal athlete. And in fact, it blows my mind knowing how good of an athlete she is that the WWE doesn't incorporate her a little bit more. She's a professional fitness competitor. That's actually how she got in WWE. She's a very accomplished gymnast, and I've seen Ashley compete in fitness competitions. And there's nothing that any of those girls in the WWE can do that she can't do better. And I know there's a lot of things that go into it, promo work and in ring presence and stuff like that. But yeah, she's really cool. She dated a friend of mine for a while who unfortunately passed away, and we talked a lot then. She's hooked me up with some tickets to some wrestling shows. So big fan of Dana Brooke. So we're always keeping our fingers crossed that she gets a little bit more ring time and they push her a little harder, but we'll see. But I've had a chance to meet Hulk Hogan at the Arnold Classic a couple of weeks ago. Met The Rock backstage in Pittsburgh. I met Triple H a few times. All those guys just super cool too. I mean, The Rock is, I had a chance to talk with him for a little while backstage, totally behind the scenes, and he's just like he's like the coolest fucking dude, and it's like he's exactly how you how you would hope he would be, but yeah, and I'm a big wrestling fan. When I grew up, I was watching The Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man and Hulk Hogan and all those guys. So to be able to meet some of those guys has been pretty cool, especially able to meet Hulk Hogan. So and he was like in a private meeting when I met him, but a guy that I worked with at Muscular Development, Sean Ray, he's a Hall of Fame bodybuilder. Sean used to train out at Gold's in Venice when Hulk, and if you know him, you don't call him Hulk, because apparently he doesn't like that at all. Everybody calls him Terry. And he goes, yeah, I know Terry back from the Gold's Venice days. I'm like, dude, I don't fucking ask you for much, man. I do not. I do not ask, and I do ask him for a lot. He hooks me up all the time. But for the sake of being dramatic, I was like, man, I don't fucking ask you for much, dude. But you got to introduce me to him. And he was in kind of a meeting, but he knew the guys he was in a meeting with too, as some supplement guys, you know. I'm like, just fucking take me over there. Just pretend like whatever. I don't fucking care, you know. And so he's like, all right, let's go over there. He's like, hey, what's up, Terry? And he stood up. He's like, hey, Sean, you know, long time, you know. And then Sean ended up talking with, they were the guys from BPI. He had a short stint with them. And Sean was talking with the guys from BPI for a while. So I actually got the BS with, you know, I'll just call him Hulk. We're not on Terry terms, so I can call him that. But no, he sat in BS with me in like 10, 15 minutes. You know, a lot of the pictures I get, you know, and it's a funny thing. People are like, oh, you get to meet so-and-so. And a lot of the people I do get to meet and hang out and BS with, a lot of times I get pictures. It's like, hey, man, can I get a picture? Yep, cool. Click. Thanks. You know, like both the times I've gotten pictures with Triple H has been, can I get a picture? Oh, yeah, of course. Come on, you know, and then, hey, thanks. That's it. I've never like talked to him. The Rock, I've had a chance to talk with for a little bit, but no, I sat in BS with him for probably 10, 15 minutes. He was always, you know, joking about how, you know, how much he loved coming to Green Bay, you know, and the fans there were always nuts and stuff like that. And, you know, you get a good pop when you were going to be at the Brown County Arena, you know. Like,
oh, nice.
Oh, shit, you know, but. No, it's been really cool, and it's very surreal. You know, like I said, when you grow up as a kid, you don't think like, hey, I'm going to have the opportunity to meet Hulk Hogan or Arnold Schwarzenegger one day, and so the fact that I've had those opportunities has been pretty cool.
I'm surprised Triple H didn't just offer you a contract right then.
Yeah, too. There's that's people say, oh, you get a wrestling contract, like dude, at the Arnold Classic, like I'm one of the little guys there. You know, there's plenty of big guys there, but it's you know, obviously you guys know for the WWE, it's a lot more about about a lot more than, you know, just being big. It's about, you know, your athletic ability, being able to sell stuff in the ring, promo work, whether you're okay on a mic. So just being a bodybuilder certainly isn't going to get you into the WWE.
Well, and that was one of the things that I always like talking to you about, Dave, was like after one of the big WWE pay-per-views, I'd always love to bump into you at the gym and be like, hey, what did you think of this and that? Because I always liked your insight as somebody who, you know, knows quite a bit about it, but isn't so knee deep in it that, you know, you can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing. Like you can sit back and look at it objectively. Whereas I think as people who either have wrestled or are wrestling, they feel like, well, I have to respect this guy's work rate and I have to respect what, you know, they're doing. Whereas a guy who looks at it from more of a fan's perspective can be like, yeah, that guy might be able to wrestle, but he's the drizzling shits and it bores me to death. I don't want to watch him on TV, you know?
Yeah, I tell you what, wrestling's different now, you know, and Quinn, you and I have this conversation a lot of times about kind of the shift from these huge, like jacked up dudes, you know, because in the 80s and even in the 90s, just about every wrestler was either looked like a bodybuilder or you had your Vader, King Kong Bundy, you know, big boss man build.
Like stage ready.
Yeah. So it was like one of the two. And now you have like littler guys or guys who aren't, you know, like I have a hard time getting into Kevin Owens just because he's got a flat top and a big beer gut. And I'm like, you know, and my buddies who are like really into wrestling, they're like, oh no, but he's really good. And I'm like, you're just not selling it to me.
Yeah.
You
and
know?
I think there's the disconnect. You don't see a superstar.
No, but I mean, I don't necessarily need somebody to be like, you know, jacked up like, you know, like the Warrior or Hulk Hogan or Macho Man was. I tell you, I'm a big fan of Finn Balor. I think he's great. And, you know, the one big twist that I've seen in wrestling is it's just a lot more skill-based than it used to be. And, man, if you go back and watch those old WrestleManias, they are terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're bad. Like, you watch, like, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man or the Ultimate Warrior, and you're like, yeah, this is going to be so nostalgic. I'm going to go watch WrestleMania 3. And you're like, holy shit, this is terrible, you know?
Yeah.
Because the guys today – look, man, you can watch probably the entirety of WrestleMania 3 and not see some of the shit, you know, through the whole program that you'll see Kevin Owens do in one match. And so I think they demand a lot more of the wrestlers now. It's a lot more of a production. So there's not as much focus on the guys just all looking like action figures anymore. But there's still quite a bit of that. If you look at the more popular guys, they're all still pretty built for the most part, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I just want to say, that's what can be frustrating. Sometimes if you do know a little bit of these guys' character, like with Dana, what she's capable of, what she can do, but yet you see these guys who are pigeonholed into these really shitty characters or they're not doing anything, and you're just like, man, like what are they waiting for? They got the guy right here,
Yeah, I tell you what, I respect the fact that these guys writing these scripts and these storylines for WWE must be difficult. Like, oh, fuck, what do we do now? We've been writing these storylines for 30 years, like how do we keep, and that's the thing where I try not to judge too much. And I know wrestling fans, man, I know some passionate wrestling fans that get real upset with the storylines, but it's like, these can't be easy to create. You have to constantly be creating drama between different people, and that drama has to work around, their injuries. And a lot of the more popular people that you've seen necessarily aren't at as many events or have other things going on, movies or whatnot. And so to constantly be writing them in. So I think it's tough. I see a lot of gimmicks that I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but overall, we still have fun. I go to my buddy's house for pay-per-view. As soon as we wrap this up, I'm going to skate over to my buddy's and catch the end of Fastlane. But, I don't get enough into it where I get too frustrated with, certain people winning or losing. But at the same time, there are wrestlers where I see it. I'm like, this is not the entertainment value I would like to see, or like I said, knowing how, when I see Ashley go out there and I know how athletic she is, I'm like, oh, shit, they could have her doing all that stuff and then some, so, but I'm sure there's a lot of guys capable of that, but I still find it entertaining. I get razzed from my buddies who don't watch wrestling still sometimes, like, how you still watching that crap? I'm like, man, shut up. I'm like, you watch the fucking Bachelor, get out of here, so, like, and I think the big thing, like people who like still have no idea, like give me shit about watching wrestling, like, oh, but it was fake. I'm like, that's not even a thing anymore. Like I remember when I was a kid, in the early 80s and the mid 80s, like there was legitimate talks. Is it real or is it not real? And now it's just marketed as sports entertainment, which I think is brilliant because there's no question as to whether the matches are pre-scripted or determined, but I think the level of athleticism is off the charts there, and that's what people appreciate. And the hardcore fans know that there's a storyline and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people who look at it as still being like really dumb are like, well, it's fake. And like, yeah, but that they don't try to sell it as being real anymore. It's just entertainment. And I'll tell you what, the live shows are a ton of fun. I mean, you can get decent seats at the Resch Center for like $35. And it's a 3-hour show if you go to a Raw show, and the entertainment value you get for that for $35 is through the roof. All you got to do is like
best value there is.
Yeah, all you got to do is, I mean, I've brought a couple of buddies who are totally not into wrestling, and we'll go have 4 or 5 beers before the show, and I'm just sitting. and we'll just sit and yell shit at the stage. Like I'll yell, like I'll be like, you suck, like just. I have fun, I don't sit there, oh, it's fake, you didn't really hit him. Like I'll sit there and talk trash and we'll get into it.
Dave, you should really go with Mason Quinn when he has 2 gallons of beer in him. The chants are just something else. Like Purple Ropes, HBK just out of nowhere.
I can't be held accountable for what happens.
I cannot be held accountable once I exceed 1.5 gallons.
Oh, the beer was just flowing that night.
No, but
they could have been putting on a 5-star match. Mason Quinn didn't give a damn.
They had NXT at the Arnold Classic a couple of years ago. I was disappointed that wasn't bad. I mean, it was just, and they had shit going on like the middle of the day. Like you'd come into the expo and you're like, oh, there's, they're handing out shakers, and then off to your right, they're wrestling. It was cool.
So weird. I was thrown in there.
Yeah.
So Dave, I know your time's delicate here now as we are going to our go home, but I did a little YouTube search on you, and I was just kind of still curious if you're still I think you're gonna pop when I finally get it out here. Are you still upset about Ronda Rousey potentially being in Roadhouse?
Fuck yes, I am. No, and I'm glad it fell through. And here's the thing: Roadhouse doesn't even work anymore. Okay, the only thing that made Roadhouse work is that it was made in the fucking 80s, okay? Because guess what? In today's day and age, if a bouncer beats somebody up like Swayze did, you get fucking felony battery and you go to jail, It was the 80s. If you were a bouncer and somebody was fucking off in your bar, you could kick the shit out of them and throw them outside, and kick him in the face, and the cops just didn't even care. And if they did, they told everybody, break it up, everybody go home. Roadhouse wouldn't even work in today's day and age. Now, granted, people would ignore that, but no. And the other thing is, like, they wanted to have Rhonda, because she was a badass, and that's cool and all, but it still creates a weird dynamic because, like, okay, is she just going to go kick people's ass and nobody's going to fight back, And then, of course, if dudes are trying to punch her, it's just going to create, assault on a woman in a movie, And it was just like, it was Hollywood trying way too hard to push Rhonda. And Rhonda, she's obviously an incredible judo athlete, one of probably the best of all time. But, MMA caught up to her. The skill set of the other fighters caught up to her, and people found her weaknesses, and she got her ass beat bad. I mean, she got the shit kicked out of her. And her reputation as, like, her acting career is done because she's not. Nobody looks at her as, like, the baddest woman on the planet anymore.
Yeah,
like,
you truly did her in.
You did her in. She was in all kinds of movies because people looked at her like, oh, this chick's bad. And then you see Holly Holmes kick her in the fucking face, and she's out on the fucking mat like Apollo Creed fucking fighting Drago, and you're like, it kind of takes the luster away, But I did a long video. You saw it on YouTube. I gave 3 guys, I think I said Jason Momoa in that video at the time, who turned out to be fucking Aquaman. You can do you can do a Roadhouse. Yeah, you could do a Roman now. I didn't know who he was at the time. I said that, and I was like, you could even go like you could get like a Jax Teller or like, whatever his name is, Charlie Hunnam, or even Scott Eastwood, get him juiced up a little bit, put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle. And you could even do that. And you could have like the good looking guy, like Swayze was, obviously, at the fucking door, kicking people's asses. You could have popular. It wouldn't have worked. And I have a long list of reasons why it wouldn't have worked. I think one was, obviously the fighting thing. I said 2, you're taking a male role and replacing it with a female in a situation where I don't think most guys at a bar, regardless of how drunk you are, would start, throwing hands at a female bouncer. It's not feasible. And
her downfall started with her losing to Michelle Rodriguez in Fast and Furious 7.
That was tragic. Yeah.
Well, I think the only thing tragic about that was her terrible acting in that.
I tell you what, though, she's been pretty good in WWE.
Got a little bit better in the E, for sure.
Yeah, I was at God, what show was it? It's one after the Arnold Classic last year, and I forget which one. It was one Road to WrestleMania, and she picked up Stephanie McMahon and like dropped her backwards or whatever, and she dropped her. We were like, Ashley Dana Brooke had gotten us tickets. And we were pretty up close, and Rhonda put Stephanie McMahon right on her fucking head. Like, it was bad. It was really bad, and we were like, "Oh shit," And so I think sometimes there's this adjustment period for people who are like actually fighters, learning like you can't be like slamming people on their noggins. But no, thank you for bringing up that sore spot in my history, Dave. That caused a lot of stress for me. Like, if they would have went through with a Roadhouse remake with Ronda Rousey, it would have been boycotted by everybody. Nobody would have fucking gone. Because who's gonna go? Nobody.
Hey, believe me, Dave, I can feel your pain. When they did that remake of Red Dawn, there's a big part of me that died inside.
You know what? I hate to disagree with you on this, but I wasn't entirely upset, and here's the reason why. Okay, here's my reasoning. One, you can't be just running off all fucking willy-nilly remaking Patrick Swayze movies, all right? I think everybody in the world can agree on this.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay? But if you're going to remake a Patrick Swayze movie, okay, and you have to cast somebody, okay, well, we got to fucking cast somebody. We need a movie, who are you going to pick? Chris Hemsworth is pretty fucking cool, You went with Thor, so it's like, all right, you know what? I can work with this. You went with Chris Hemsworth. Like, that, to me, that's respectful to Swayze. Had they gone with like some chump or something like that, I'd have probably, can I say I would have burned down? I'm going to get arrested now. Oh, you threatened to burn down a theater in a podcast. I would have gone to a theater. I would have gone to a theater after hours when nobody was there and started a very controlled fire in an area that wasn't damaged. Yes, they wouldn't damage anything. No, but yes,
volunteer.
It's like if you're gonna remake a Swayze movie, at least like give him the respect of putting somebody like super badass in the role that he had originally had.
Right. And I don't have a problem with Hemsworth taking the lead on that, but the story was just terrible, and everything else, it just didn't have the feel that the original did.
If they tried just remaking Dirty Dancing, like I know they did Dirty Dancing 2 Havana Nights, it was kind of a sequel. If they tried doing
How'd you know that?
Because I know. If they tried doing a Dirty Dancing remake, fuck that. I don't even know. Like my brain like starts smoking when I start even thinking about it, you know? Like,
I don't know, Dave. I'm thinking Zac Efron could probably pull that off.
I fucking like Zac Efron. I really do, man. I mean, when you watch like
Frick.
He was so annoying in those. I've never seen a High School Musical, but just his hair and his leather jacket, I hated him. And he's turned out to be so cool in all his movies. You know, Baywatch, the Dave and whatever, Mike Need Wedding Dates, and Bad Grandpa. He was hilarious. I am a huge fan of the movie The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman and Zac Efron. So you fuck, man, you might be onto something. Hey,
there we go.
You know. Yeah, because he's like, that's a thing. Like, for as much as I love my 80s guys, like I don't have to deny that I have man crushes on current stars as well. You know? I mean, it's different because you're not like growing up with them. You know, it's not like this nostalgic part of your childhood, but at the same time, like, yeah, fuck yeah. You know, if they were to pick Zac Efron, man, did you see Baywatch? He got bodybuilder competition ready, ripped for that fucking movie. When they showed him doing that jungle gym course, I was like, holy fuck, you know? Yeah, but no, yeah, Zach could probably pull it off. I don't know who would. Now, you know what? I don't even want to go there. I'm going to start thinking, well, who would they cast as Baby, you know? And would she still carry watermelons? Would they redo it like scene for scene, or would they have to try to mix it up? And fuck, I'm going to be here for another 4 hours.
This poor guy's not even going to sleep tonight. Just going to be rolling around in his head, waking up in a cold sweat.
Thanks for this bad medicine, guys.
I had this terrible dream that they remade Dirty Dancing, you know? They picked some asshole with a man bun to play Patrick Swayze's role, you know?
Well, he's doing a vape pen the whole movie.
Fuck. Vaping out behind the cabin with his man bun and his skinny jeans. Holy shit. I would fucking blow on.
You've had the time of your life.
Fuck that.
So, Dave, we want to get you on for pod number 2 because there's so much more that we want to get in with you. But before we go here, I know you've been doing a lot for the Humane Society, so I thought you'd like to do a nice plug for that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So, you know, my girlfriend and I we talked forever about just volunteering, you know, at pet shelters, you know, and I'm the kind of guy, I'm always sharing videos on Facebook and stuff like that. And believe me, that helps. And so, you know, sharing videos about certain, you know, especially pit bulls. I mean, you know, people are doing such a great job of helping raise awareness and how good these dogs can be. But I got to the point where I was like, you know what, sharing videos and stuff like that isn't helping locally and stuff. So we just decided to do it, and we started volunteering at the shelter. We signed up online. They have a website, foxvalleypets.org. You know, you registered. Everybody's got to go through a little bit of a screening. You know, they got to make sure they know who's coming in out there. But and we just started, you know, and at the Humane Association here in the Fox Valley, you have to do 10 hours of just general volunteering, cleaning, laundry, dishes, and stuff like that before you can start walking dogs, which is, of course, what I wanted to do, you know. And I guess, you know, when we both signed up, it was kind of like, yeah, we'll go hang out, we'll walk dogs, it'll be fun, you know. And then, like, and I don't know if they have, and I haven't really asked whether they do that mandatory 10 hours because you know, they want you to see the behind the scenes stuff, or otherwise everybody would just come walk dogs and nobody would do the hard stuff. Right. But man, like in the Fox Valley Humane Association, and I just do want to make it known they're not associated with the American Humane Society or the Humane, you know, because I know they've got the Fox Valley Humane Association is independently owned and operated and stuff like that. But the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes at this shelter and at every shelter, and we just picked this shelter because it's close. They have a lot of pets there, so I figured you could do a lot of good there. But it's been a really rewarding experience. And the probably the biggest question that I've gotten is like, isn't it hard? Like, don't you feel sad when you go there? Don't you want to bring the animals home? And it is. I'm not gonna lie. The first 4 or 5 times I went there, you're fighting back tears. You're tearing up. You see dogs that came from bad situations, and it can be difficult. But you start realizing that what you're doing there is really important and it's really needed. And they're always looking for volunteers. The amount of laundry that needs to be done there is just, it's mind numbing. And you don't even think about that. Like, oh, I'm going to go volunteer at a shelter. Oh, they need somebody doing laundry 24 hours a day. Because every single day, every cat, every dog gets a warm blanket to lay down on. A clean blanket, and that might not sound like much, but from some of these animals that came from bad situations that have been laying on concrete for 7-8 years, to have a warm blanket to lay on is a huge comfort thing, and it helps. And so there's so much behind the scenes stuff that goes on there. Now I do laundry once in a while. I mostly do dog walking, and I do photography as well. I kind of just got into that. A friend of mine out east, Brian Moss, that shoots all the advertising for Universal Nutrition's animal campaign. Animal, not like dogs, but animal as in like that's their supplement line. Brian started doing that out east, and I saw his pictures a couple of years ago and got really motivated. And I don't know fuck all about photography, but I was like, I'm just gonna wing it, and it's gone pretty good. But I would encourage people to, wherever you live, whatever shelter it is, the Fox Valley Humane Association, Saving Paws, New Possibilities, Frosty's for furry rescues, or that I apologize, I forget the name there, but every shelter needs help. And like I said, it's great when people share videos on Facebook. It's great when people share pictures of dogs that need to get adopting, but it's even better if you can, kind of, step up to the plate and get more hands on deck and help out. And one thing they really stress at the Humane Association is that you don't need to make time in your schedule every week or every month or even every other month. Like if you can help out twice a year for 3 hours a day, and you start multiplying that by how many people that are saying, yeah, so I got a couple hours twice a year. That shit adds up, and that I'm such a trucker. I'm sitting here like swearing during talking. I'm talking about volunteering for pet shelters and swearing and stuff, but that's just me. They say people who swear more often are more genuine and more truthful. So maybe that has something to do with it. But no, guys, I encourage it. If you're somebody who has kids, I think at the Fox Valley Humane Association, they have to be 12 or 13 years old and accompanied by an adult. Like, go there with your kids and help do laundry, help wash dishes and stuff like that. It's a good lesson, I think, for kids to learn that, you're helping out. And they always need dog walkers. I'm telling you, you have to put in your 10 hours of doing laundry and stuff, but I'll go in, like yesterday, I got in 6 miles of walking, I got my cardio in just walking dogs. And it's like the coolest thing, I just went and walked dogs. And, they don't know me from anybody. Like it's crazy. Cause like some of the dogs, you come up to their kennels and they'll look at you like, back the fuck up, like and you're like, oh, I don't know about this dog, and then you grab their leash and like, you want to go for a walk? I shouldn't even say that loud because my dogs will start spinning in circles out in the living room. But no, as soon as you grab the leash, like every dog is your best friend, and it's so cool. And it's very rewarding. And I guess that's the one thing that I really, really try to tell people, and I don't know if that comes across as being cheesy or whatever, but I've had some I've had some successes career wise and bodybuilding and martial arts and stuff like that where it's been personally rewarding for seeing my hard work pay off with some victories. But it's like that versus like rewarding because you're doing some good stuff is very different. And so that's the one really neat thing I found about volunteering is that it's a very rewarding experience. And I highly encourage people to do it. There's no such thing as too many volunteers, and it's better to have 100 extras than to be 5 volunteers short. So keep that in mind.
No, and absolutely. I mean, I'd agree with you 100% on that. It's easy to sit on your couch and hashtag something, but it's a hell of a lot more impactful to get off your ass and go do something. Anybody can sit and make a big deal on the internet, but what have you done about it? What have you personally done? Yeah, and I say that, but I do also even something as little as sharing. I went and did a photography session with that little pit that had to have his eye removed, and it was like the saddest thing.
and it got 500 shares on Facebook in less than 48 hours. Probably 10,000 people saw that post, and all you had to do was click share. So I agree with you 100%. Like, if you want to make a difference, you know, sometimes you got to take action, but that's the power of social media, though.
No,
and it
you
really
are right.
is.
Yeah.
That is really the power of social media. And so I'm with you 100%. Like, I'm like, oh, you sit on your phone, it's not doing anything. Like, get off your butt and do something. But at the same time, like, I post these pictures, and like people I've never met are sharing them, and that's helping. And I think the biggest thing for social media and sharing stuff is just the awareness that even Facebook alone has raised for bully breeds and pit bulls and stuff like that. To be honest with you, I didn't know anything about them before, you know, watching Facebook videos. You know, I'm not going to go on Google and research these dogs. You know, you just hear the bad stereotypes, and you start seeing these, you know, educational stuff. And so I still think, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, taking action is going to be better, but even people just sharing and helping create awareness is it helps, because, you know, if all you do is see a video about these dogs on Facebook because somebody shared it, if that gets you thinking that, you know, okay, maybe when I go to a shelter to adopt a dog, I'll be a little bit more open-minded towards that, then you made a difference by just sharing something. So that's what I encourage people. Like, I try not to get down on people and use that kind of verbiage where I say, like, you know, don't just be on your computer, get out there and do something. Because in this instance, you know, shit, man, getting on your computer, that's a case where you can actually make a difference, you know. And we see stuff like that with lost dogs. You know, you lose a dog and somebody will share it. The next thing you know, 10,000 people have seen a post about a lost dog in a time frame where, I mean, how would you reach that many people prior to social media? You just wouldn't, you know. So,
well, fantastic, Dave. Well, we're going to let you go because we know your time's valuable, and we appreciate every bit that you've given us.
My time's not that valuable.
But for real, though, we want to get you on for another one coming up.
I'd love to come back. We'll spend an entire hour talking about Patrick Swayze remakes.
Read my mind.
We're not even gonna talk about his original movies, potential remakes.
There we go.
We'll lay out the Swayze movies and talk about who we would cast in those roles in 2019.
Well,
your top 5 for Dirty Dancing 2019. Your top 5.
I expect like legal notepads from each of us having good notes and reasoning.
Well, we do want to do an 80s decade, so that would probably be the feature with Dave Baye.
I would be wholeheartedly disappointed if you guys didn't have me on for some sort of 80s feature. What shit is this?
Deal. All right, Dave, we're going to let you go so that way you can finish up Fastlane. You haven't missed much. Trust me.
All right. Well, like I said, I'd be more than happy to be back on anytime. All right, guys?
All right.
Thanks, Dave. You have a good one, bud.
We appreciate it.
Take it easy, fellas. Yeah, this has been fun. We got to do this again. All right.
Bad Medicine.